This is the Trump store inside the Trump Hotel, and my question is, how many things inside of here are made in America? The classic Make America Great Again hat, made in the USA. USA sticker and USA on the shirt. USA, 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 USA. Ooh, look at that bomber jacket. China.
Comes from China.
Now the mugs are where things got interesting. This mug says designed in Oregon, but made in
China.
Hello guys, welcome once again to AfriPost. I hope wherever you're watching us from, you're having a great time. Now, Americans having elected President Trump, many of them, especially the white majority, have always expected that Trump, being a white person, he's going to favor them, even in the policies and executive orders that he's passing. Many of them would want them to be favored. But one thing that is coming out is that regardless of your race, America is going to be tough under President Trump. Right now, we have seen veterans, especially whites, coming out to protest Trump's executive orders that is passing because they are finding out that these executive orders are going to affect them directly. So they have come out and called for protest against many of Trump's policies. And I want you to listen to this compilation of cries that most of these veterans or even their associates were making. So let's watch this, then come back and talk about it more.
Trump puts on a tariff and China puts on another tariff, and then Trump puts on a tariff and then there's another tariff from China. My future is being dictated by a dick measuring contest of existential proportions. And you want me to be calm about what?
This is the Trump store inside the Trump Hotel, and my question is, how many things inside of here are made in America? The classic Make America Great Again hat, made in the USA. USA sticker and USA on the shirt. USA, 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 USA. Ooh, look at that bomber jacket. China.
Comes from China.
Now the mugs are where things got interesting. This mug says designed in Oregon, but made in
China.
What about the classic Stanley Cup? Made in China, designed in Oregon. Now this bottom shelf, I don't know what to think about it. This mug says designed in Oregon, but I don't see where it's made. So on this one, I took the price tag sticker off the bottle and there it is. Made in China. There's no way the sticker is strategically placed over the made in China part, right? Let's take a look at all of them. Made in China covered, another made in China covered. This white one, made in China covered. Every single one of them had made in China covered, but designed in Oregon open. Are these intentionally covered? Just for fun, I changed the sticker on this one to be over the designed in Oregon part. At least one of them won't keep someone guessing. Not everything was either China or USA. This Las Vegas hat was made in Bangladesh, and this woman's golf hat was made in Vietnam. Around 50% of the items in the store were made in America. That's my best guess. And I guess we'll never really know if the made in China was intentionally covered.
American workers and American taxpayers have been taken advantage of for multi-generation, for decades. And it's time for somebody to stand up and put us first and put the country first and do what's best for the country, not what's best for the politicians.
Even if you as a farmer suffer.
That's right.
I mean, some people would hear that and be quite surprised that you're prepared to put your livelihood, your family's livelihood, on the line for the sake of politics.
Well, that's my duty as for being the head of my household. I've got to do what I got to do, what's going to be better for the future, better for the kids. It's not about today, it's about the long term. The long game is where the rewards are going to be.
But don't the price of tariffs and what happens in commodity markets like soybean, doesn't that affect you in the short term and affect your ability to provide for your family?
Look, tariffs will probably have a detrimental effect on soybean price in the near future. In the long term, it'll probably work out. I'm a farmer. I deal with bad weather. I deal with dry weather. I deal with torrential rains. We deal with hurricanes. What's a tariff going to do? You know, I got to raise a crop. If I was worried, I'd stay home and not raise a crop. If I was worried about it, I still got to get out there and raise my crop to get the price. If you don't get the yield, it doesn't make any difference. You know, I got to deal with all these other things. What's a tariff? I can't control that, so it is what it is.
All right, I hate asking for help. I'm not asking for any handouts, but I'm a small business owner that is directly being affected by the 104% tariff that has been put on China. I import alloy wheels for cars, and I do somewhere in the neighborhood of 10 to 15 containers a year, which is a small business in regards to this industry. At 104%, I am absolutely going to implode and will not last 6 months. So with that said, I'm asking, is there anybody out there that has connections with manufacturing facilities, specifically alloy wheels, either in the United States or outside in these lesser tariffed countries like Mexico, Indonesia, Thailand, India? I need to find another source. I've emailed a lot of these companies and cannot get a response. And I just don't know if it's because I'm a small business or what exactly it is. So if anybody's out there that can help or shed some light, maybe provide some information that would be helpful, I would really greatly appreciate it, because if not, it's just a small business here that's going to go under, and I'll be back to digging ditches again, which I'm not scared to do, but it's a little harder to do with a wife, 2 kids, and at 45 years old. So let me know if you guys have any suggestions. It's very much appreciated. Thank you.
I love this for you. I love this. Nice. I love this for you. I love to see you fail. I love to see your family be affected and hurt because you voted for Trump. Yeah, I voted for Trump. Absolutely. Did I know he was going to increase the tariffs? Yes, I did. However, I thought that the infrastructure would be set up prior for small business to come back to America and manufacture in America. So to wish ill on someone and to love the fact that they're suffering, to love the fact that their family is being negatively affected because I didn't vote the same way that you did is fucked up. It really is. It shouldn't matter. Anyone that enters my life, I'm going to judge you of who you are, how you are as a human being. Are you kind? Are you polite? Are you sincere? That's how I judge you, not who you voted for. I've got far left-leaning friends. I got far right-leaning friends. It doesn't matter to me. I like you based on who you are. But to see someone hurt and their business fail and their family be affected because they didn't vote the way you did, it's fucked up. I'm sorry, a lot of you are fucked up. I'm sorry. We should all care about each other regardless of who we voted for. I'm sorry. I hope you guys can be better people. Good luck to you.
First of all, I'd like to thank you for replying to my comment. And then I'd like to thank everybody else who commented on that comment chain in favor of what I was saying. So you're telling all of us that you voted for a man twice that said he was going to do this, that we all warned you was going to happen, but yet you still did it. Now, why would you do that? I mean, we see this all the time. People like you vote for a man that is purposely going to hurt so many other communities, but as long as it doesn't affect you, you're okay. But the moment that it affects you, that's the only time you care. You voted for a man who sexually assaulted women and made jokes about it. You voted for a man that has decades-long racism and bigotry, and yet you still voted for him. And now you're crying because it's affecting you personally. And yes, that's why I love this for you, because you should feel the same exact way that everybody else did, because your vote was meant to hurt other communities. Your vote meant, I don't care if other people suffer as long as I do well, but now you're not doing well. And so we could all return that energy and revel in that.
I feel like the past 24 hours has just been a complete nightmare. 104% on imports coming from China. 104%. And that means my small business that I put everything into is done. I quit my corporate job about a year and a half ago to chase my dreams. I designed and launched a kids fitness brand, and it was going great. I paid fair wages. I built relationships. And then overnight, the cost just more than doubled. My margins were gone. You know, my business doesn't pay for a yacht or a private jet. It pays for our daughter's swim classes. It covers groceries. It helps with babysitters for date nights. This isn't just numbers on a policy sheet. It's real people, real jobs, real families. And now I'm back at square one. So wish me luck.
Trump just destroyed my business, my small business. Trump announced his massive tax plan on items coming from other countries. He says that the countries are going to pay that. That's false. It's the person bringing it in. And I own a small business. I've been in operation since 2018. I've been incredibly successful, basically doubling my business every single year. And it's not a product that can be made here in the United States. But I've had a lot of people say, well, what about the tariffs before? Yeah, I didn't have any. That was 0% tariffs for me, 0% tax. He added 10% in February. Then he added another 10% in March. And then yesterday, he just announced an additional 34% on top of that. So for all products coming in from China, that is now 54%. So most retail goods, stores, products, there's about a 30 to 40% profit margin. Okay? Profit margin. That profit margin, a lot of the times, it's not even a living wage. Okay? But that 30 to 40% is how the people that own that business are able to live. And then there's still other expenses on top of that. 54% tax is more than the profit that most retailers or business owners would make. Well, a 54% tax. And I'm just paying that money straight to Trump.
You guys know what happened just before the Great Depression? Well, it's a funny story because this guy, President Herbert Hoover, he actually signed this huge tariff bill into law. It's called the Smoot-Hawley Tariff Act into law in June 1930. And he did this because in the 1920s, there was a smaller depression, and it caused a huge contraction of the American economy, especially in agriculture, right? Which in the 1920s, huge backbone of the American economy. So Hoover signed a big sweeping tariff act. And the point of this tariff act was to raise tariffs on all the other countries so America could keep their jobs and keep money for Americans. But how did that work out? It resulted in a contraction of international trade and a worsening of the economy because Canada, France, and all the other big countries that America was trading with at that time, they retaliated. But that's not all he did, right? Because after he signed that tariff act into law and all the prices on everything started going up for American consumers, and American consumers in the 1930s couldn't afford anything and the Great Depression was looming, Herbert Hoover said, you know what we're going to do? We're going to get all the Mexicans out. Yeah, he started a Mexican repatriation to get the illegals out, to protect jobs for Americans. Didn't work either. Because 40 to 60% of those Mexicans that Hoover had deported in the 1930s, they were Americans. They were American citizens. And then a bunch of people who were adding to the economy saw that and went, yeah, we're just going to leave. This is not a good place to be. And all of this was a part of the Great Depression. It's a part of why America sank into the Great Depression, because Hoover was an isolationist. He was all about the gold standard. He was all about America for America. We're not going to get involved in the world's problems. And so the economy collapsed. It's all right there. This is history. This is like 10th grade history. He also decided that, oh my God, Americans are suffering. You know what's going to solve this? Let's give all the money to the banks and the big corporations who my buddies run, because Hoover was actually friends with all the new money billionaires and millionaires that were in there, and he gave them all the jobs and all the relief and all the money. And then all the rest of the Americans who weren't these millionaires and billionaires, guess what happened to him? And what's even funny is he had this whole thing about not wanting America to be a welfare state. People couldn't be on the dole. He couldn't help the starving Americans, like, you know, in the Grapes of Wrath, the families that were starving to death in ditches, because he said, that's going to weaken the country. We can't help people. Well, we can help my buddies, the bankers and the railroad owners, but not the common person. And let's not even talk about the stock speculation that led into. But yeah, Herbert Hoover, he did all this before, and it had disastrous consequences for America, the American people, and the American economy. Most of you actually probably know him from the word Hoovervilles, which were big giant slums, which kind of are all over America at the moment, aren't they? Weird. It's like we've done this before. So if we've done this before and the results were disastrous for all of us, why are they doing it again?
What do we got here? The respectful thing would be to call him President Trip. Oh, wait a minute, that doesn't sound right. Just as the respectful thing is for students to call their teachers Mr., Mrs., or Miss, followed by their last name. Kelly, I just got to get ready for an event, but while I'm getting ready, I promise I'm going to educate you, hon. So sit down, grab a pen, put on your thinking cap, hon. We got some work to do. Stand by. So Kelly, you obviously know that I'm a teacher. That's why you led with this comparison to bolster your argument about respect, assuming for a minute that my students for the past 23 years have been calling me Mrs. Johnson. What you fail to understand or research, by the way, I thought your people were all about the research. What you failed to research, for the past 23 years, my students have been calling me Joanna, along with every other faculty member at Metro Prep. I'm going to explain to you why, but it gets a little deep, so, hunker down for this one. The premise of your argument rests on the assumption that when somebody gains a particular status within society, I'm assuming status that only you choose, whether it's a teacher or president, they deserve a level of respect from their subordinates, from anybody else looking onto them because of what they have achieved. And I'm here to tell you, it's a bad premise. The first problem is crystal clear. You assume that the individual has achieved their level of power or success honorably. They've studied real hard, they worked very hard, they are ethical in the way they've achieved power, right? And when you assume, you make an ass out of it. Okay, moving on. Wolverine socks go with the outfit. Now, your secondary problem is that you assume when they're executing the duties of their position, they also do it honorably. They do it in good faith. They do it with respect for the people around them, right? You can't assume any of that to be true when you first meet somebody. But I'm going to take it a step further. Now, let's assume they are good people that you're meeting. They're a great teacher, they're a great president, they're a great leader. Here's the funny part about great leaders and great people who give respect. They don't necessarily demand it in the same way as those who, let's say, their whole identity is based on how people perceive them and how people react to them. I mean, I've been a teacher for 23 years, and in 23 years, my students give me respect because I give it to them, because of the safe, incredible environment that we try to create together. They don't give it to me just because I'm old, or just because I'm a teacher. They give it to me because that's the environment I help create. Also, you haven't even left space for bad actors. For example, when, let's say, a president rises to the level of office through lies, deceit, manipulation, oppression, marginalization of citizens, right? When that very person has abused their power to such a degree they are trying to reshape and shred the Constitution, what kind of respect am I supposed to grant that individual? Why would I give that individual the kind of respect you're speaking about when they're not giving it to the rest of the people on this planet, let alone in their country? How's my hair, Kelly? You know what? I'd rather live in the world, and Kelly, if you don't mind, I'll choose to live in a world where the respect I garner comes from an authentic place. The respect I give comes from an equally authentic place. I'm not handing it out to individuals who haven't earned it and don't deserve it. And I sure as heck am not giving it to somebody just based on the position they hold at whatever office they happen to work at. Kelly, a title doesn't denote respect. The person that carries the title does. So when you're talking about an individual, that got in my eyes, who walks in the room demanding respect, demanding accolades, demanding to be held up on a pedestal, that individual has their entire self-worth wrapped up in what others think about him. That's a very dangerous guy, Kelly. I prefer my leaders, and my teachers for that matter, having the self-confidence and understanding that earning respect has value, that their position doesn't grant them anything other than the opportunity to actually do something important in this world. And for all the other guys who demand their respect, well, Kelly, I'm worried about their little boys who are broken and how much damage they're going to do to the world around them if we keep upholding their delusions.
Did you know that it's legal to lie to the police? Like, you can go to the police and say, that person assaulted me, and the police find out, no, that didn't happen at all, and it's all good. I found this out the hard way. Today I met a woman out at the public tennis courts. She was short. I'm sure she voted for Trump 3 times. I'm sure she would have been there on January 6th, but she didn't have enough money for bus fare. She had about 90% of her teeth and a ski hat on, even though we were playing tennis. But she wasn't playing tennis. She was overseeing her son, about 14, who was playing with a much better, older man. I'm at the tennis courts where I go every single day. I signed up to play from 12 to 1, and she's on my court at 12:01. I'm like, this is my court. She's going, no, it's first come, first serve. I'm like, no, there's a sign-up sheet. She goes, no, these are public courts. I'm like, no, I'm here every day. You have no idea of the rules. I do. I live in these courts. She refuses to move off my courts. And then she says, why don't we call the police? Even though she's the problem. So she calls 911. The story is wild. This is all true. After she hung up, she starts arguing somehow with the guy I was going to play tennis with, and her husband comes running out of nowhere onto the courts as if he had run straight in from the set of The Sopranos. Khakis, 6 hairs clinging to the top of his head, black jacket, white turtleneck, like straight from Tony Soprano's crew. He's screaming, nobody yells at my wife, and I think he's going to go physically attack my partner. So I get in his way, and I'm like, what do you want to do? And he's like, these are public courts. And I'm like, that's great. We have a sign-up sheet. We covered this already this morning. Like, you guys came late. You can't just take somebody else's court and then physically threaten them. So the police come, and it's me and her telling these 2 cops what's going on. And she tells them I physically assaulted her. I was nowhere near this woman. I am certain she smelled, so I was keeping my distance from the beginning of the interaction. I was telling her about herself when she was refusing to get off my court, but I wasn't getting anywhere near her. And other people who were there who saw the whole thing are like, hey, officer, I saw the whole thing. There was no assault whatsoever. They never got near each other. So the officer's like, so it was just a verbal dispute, right? And I'm like, yeah. And she's like, no. And they're like, it was just a verbal dispute. And I'm like, okay, so you have learned, you have assessed that she lied when she said there was an assault. So I want to press charges for that because she should not be saying that about something that didn't happen. And he's like, no, it doesn't work that way. But why is it acceptable in society to lie to the police? I mean, like, I understand that different people can have different perspectives on the same moment. We're not talking about that. We're not talking about a good faith attempt to witness something that happened very fast and like, no, we're talking about you clearly lied. Why would that not be something you would get arrested for? How does it benefit society that it's okay for people to lie to the police? We're also completely arbitrary on this issue because the FBI, they're cops, you can't lie to them, but you can lie to the beat cop who's got a gun and a prison key just the same. I'm just glad I didn't get arrested. Every time you call the police on a black man, he's rolling the dice with his life.
It's a little short-term pain for some long-term gain.
I feel like I'm not that worried. Seems like Trump knows what he's doing.
I think he's got a plan bigger than what people see it as.
I do think it was part of the plan. He's not stupid, right? Like, he knows what he's doing. He's gotten to this point.
I think the United States needed some tightening. I think we're going to see something positive from these changes.
I think something had to happen eventually. Now it actually is. So I'm excited for the future.
Sounds like he knows what he's talking about. He is a businessman at the end of the day, so.
We knew he's not a politician. He's going to ruffle feathers. He's going to, bump elbows.
I think a lot of people didn't respect Biden, so hopefully Trump is laying down the law a little bit harder so that those other countries respect him more.
Our allies are our allies. I think they're actually going to support us and stick with us because we are probably, I believe we are the superpower of the world.
Now, from that compilation, it turns out that while white Americans or even white veterans who are voting expecting Trump to favor them over blacks. That has not happened. They are already suffering. And blacks who are used to these kind of situations have nothing to say, but just look at them and wonder what they expected to come out of Trump's presidency. You know, many times you find that while Americans may be seen to be voting on issues, one of the major determinants of outcomes that always happen is whether the presidential candidate that is being voted will favor the white majority. And most whites in America, when they vote, they want to preserve and protect their interests. And the person who can protect their interests quite effectively is their fellow white man or white person. So that is why even if anybody comes to run, they will always want never to have a black president. Looking at what is happening within the black community now, I'm sure many of them are wondering, what if we would have voted for Kamala Harris to see what she's going to give us? Because one thing we are realizing is that they are dissatisfied with Trump's presidency, and the executive orders that Trump keeps pushing every day are having a negative impact on their lives. So white veterans in America have historically reaped significant benefits from white privilege, a systemic advantage woven into the fabric of the nation's social, economic, and political structures. This privilege has often granted them access to opportunities and resources that black veterans, despite their equal service and sacrifice, have been systematically denied or offered in diminished form. This disparity is not merely a matter of individual prejudice, but a reflection of policies and cultural norms that have favored whiteness for centuries. One of the most glaring examples is the GI Bill, enacted in 1944 to support returning World War II veterans. On paper, it was pronounced and promised that education, housing, and job training will be served to all veterans. However, white veterans capitalized on this, using low-cost mortgages to buy homes in burgeoning suburbs, building generational wealth as property values soared. Black veterans, however, faced redlining and discriminatory lending practices that barred them from the same neighborhoods. Banks and real estate agents, backed by federal guidelines, deemed black buyers risky, relegating them to underfunded urban areas. By 1950, white home ownership rates had surged, while black veterans lagged far behind. Their economical mobility, therefore, stunted. Education, another GI Bill pillar, followed a similar pattern. White veterans enrolled in prestigious universities, often segregated by law or custom, gaining degrees that opened professional doors. Black veterans, confined to underfunded historically black colleges or denied entry altogether due to Jim Crow laws, rarely assessed the same caliber of education. This gap perpetuated a cycle of limited career advancement and lower earnings, reinforcing economic divides. Employment further illustrated the privilege gap. White veterans returned to a job market eager to reward their services with unionized factory jobs or corporate positions, bolstered by networks of white employers and colleagues. Black veterans, even with equal qualifications, faced overt discrimination. Help-wanted ads specifying white only were common into the 1960s. The military's own segregation, only fully dismantled in 1948, meant black soldiers often returned with less recognized training, further hindering their prospects. Beyond policy, cultural perception amplified these inequalities. White veterans were lionized as heroic archetypes in media and society, their service amplifying their status as deserving citizens. Black veterans, despite identical valor, were often met with suspicion or hostility, their contributions minimized. From the Revolutionary War to Vietnam, white privilege has ensured that white veterans' sacrifices translated into tangible rewards, while black veterans fought dual battle against foreign enemies and domestic exclusion, leaving them with a fraction of same benefits. So that sums up what black veterans have been going through. And therefore, right now, when white veterans are out to protest President Trump's policies, I think you're finding why some black people are very, very amused, and they really don't want to be part of this, because when they look at how the system has been created to discriminate against them or even to give others advantage over them, they also want to see how these whites who have benefited from this discrimination against blacks can survive the onslaught that President Trump's presidency is directing to them? Tell me down in the comment section what you think about this. And if you're watching us for the first time, please don't forget to subscribe to our channel, like this video, and also share. Thank you, and may the good Lord bless you. Goodbye.